The doctor basically said there's no real damage there. It's an old injury, but you need to stay off your foot for a few weeks. Conor and I were going back and forth about the foot, and Conor I said, listen, you're not a doctor, and he told me I know my body better than you do. So I'll give him that one, and he wants to fight. So it's the reason we all love Conor McGregor.
What is it like negotiating with him, Dana?
It's actually, it's not that bad. He's an intelligent guy, and the thing that I love and respect about Conor McGregor is that he loves to fight and he wants to fight everybody. So, he's my kind of guy.
Okay, now listen, so he's going lightweight now, up from featherweight, beat Jose Aldo there last December, but he hasn't fought as a featherweight since last December, and I know there's a clamor out there that why aren't you stripping him of his featherweight belt at this point? What is the rationale?
So this fight's coming up, and he wants to try to gain both belts, and he will give up one of the titles after that fight in New York.
Which one is he giving up?
That's a good question. That's what we'll figure out. He's got some stuff going on right now, some personal stuff that I'm sure he'll announce when he's ready. But this fight made sense.
UFC 200. We are pleased to welcome UFC President Dana White to SportsCenter. Dana, thank you for joining us from Las Vegas. How do you feel about Conor McGregor's mouth when you hear him saying stuff like that?
I like Conor. Conor is, you can say whatever you want outside, but when that kid steps in the octagon, not even when he steps in the octagon, when he's faced with, guys pulling out of fights, he steps up, man. He steps up and he fights. I respect him as a fighter. Does he say some crazy things? Of course he does. We got offered $3.5 billion back in 2011. Conor wasn't here, so.
So maybe he's worth $500 million then, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, how would a second straight loss, though, how do you think that would affect McGregor's legacy and your bottom line there at the UFC going forward?
Well, this is a fight. Listen, this is a fight that isn't for belts, that isn't for where you stand in the rankings. This is a fight between two real tough, bad, dogs that love to fight, and they want to do it again. They had a great fight the first time at 170 pounds. Conor weighs 145 pounds. They're doing it again at 70. This is one of those fights. If you're a fight fan, this is the kind of fight you like to watch.
Do you think Conor McGregor believes all the things that he says?
Oh, I do. I really do think he believes the things that he says, yes. People talk a lot about Conor talking, but if you look at what he's done since he's come into the UFC, it's been a pretty amazing run, and he's pretty much backed up everything he said.
Well, there's no question about that, and there's no question that the guy has pretty much done everything put in front of him by you, with the slight mix-up there at UFC 200, if you want to call it that. But another guy, Jon Jones, is certainly another story. He's suspended for maybe 2 years, but yesterday he came out, said he expects to be back in the octagon really soon in an Instagram video that he has since deleted. What was your reaction to what he had to say in that video?
Yeah, he's not wrong. Things have taken a turn, and it's looking a little more positive than it was.
How is that?
It came out that he had tested positive for something that you get on when you come off of steroids, but that might not be the case now. I got to let this thing play out between USADA and the Nevada State Athletic Commission, but this guy's got like 12 lives. It's unbelievable. Things are looking up for him.
That's interesting news and good news if you're a fan of the UFC, because Jon Jones certainly brings it when he is able to enter the ring as well. Everybody's got Olympic fever around here, right? I mean, I'm sure you're watching the Olympics as well. I caught some Olympic wrestling a couple days ago, and the first thing that came to my mind when I was watching that was, man, wouldn't the MMA be great if they made a run for the rings to get into the Olympics? It's so exciting to see. And the MMA does have a plan in place to maybe get there sometime in the next 20 years. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we've probably been working on that for like 3 or 4 or 5 years. But we should be. I mean, we absolutely should be. I mean, they have judo, which uses submissions and chokeholds. They have boxing, which you can punch to the body and head. They have taekwondo, where you can use kicks and punches. So everything that we do is already an Olympic sport, so it makes sense.
Tell us why, as we near UFC 202, tell us why it is worth the money.
Oh, I mean, if you look at the first fight with Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor and you look at their fighting styles, there's no way that this fight is boring. And the co-main event between Anthony Johnson and Glover Teixeira is a great fight, and Cowboy Donald Cerrone is fighting Rick Story. This thing's going to sell tickets and sell pay-per-view anyway. I said after the John Jones-Cormier thing that can never happen again, and then it happens again at the MGM. It's not good. It's not good for the sport. It's not good in dealing with our partners here in Las Vegas. A lot of people respect the UFC, respect the athletes, and it's never a good thing when something like that happens. So the thing's going to sell based on the fight. The fight's going to be a great fight. I don't think anybody has any... If you're a fan of fighting and you like to watch great fights, this is the fight to watch on Saturday. That stuff doesn't need to happen to sell fights.
How annoyed were you at Conor on Wednesday when he showed up so late to that press conference?
I wasn't happy. I have a lot of respect for Conor. I say it all the time, how much I respect him as a fighter, how he steps up and all the things he does, but he has to start respecting people's time.
What's your personal relationship with him? You said some fighters you don't like. Is he a fighter you don't like, or are you guys going on?
How could you not like Conor McGregor, you know?
Here with UFC President Dana White. And Dana, this is such a big week for you guys. You said at the press conference today, you've never done this before. We go Thursday, Friday, and then have the big Saturday night. How has this been different for you?
It's been different in that, we had a little bit more work to do, but other than that, everything's been flowing pretty smoothly. It's eerie how good this thing has come together. No injuries, everybody's still intact, everything's going smooth, big turnouts early in the week, sold out all 3 events, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So it's been eerie, but it's been awesome.
Aldo McGregor is a fight that people have been wanting to see for a really long time. It didn't happen the first time, and now do you feel like this is bigger, perhaps, than it was the first time?
It's way bigger than it was the first time. Obviously, one of the things that made this fight bigger was the fact that Conor stepped up and took that short notice fight against Mendes. The big thing that everybody talked about, I said, he'll never beat a wrestler. And then not only did he beat a wrestler, he beat one of the best wrestlers in the sport, and not only a guy who's a great wrestler, but has knockout power too. So I think it took Conor to a whole nother level when everybody realized this isn't a guy that just is, is talking a lot. This is a guy that actually can back it up.
And I think that's a huge point. When you've got a guy who can not only walk the walk, but also talks the talk on the way to getting there, how do you think Conor McGregor, for you specifically as a promoter of the UFC, helps you do your job in promoting it?
Well, what happens is you have these rare individuals that pop up sometime, like a Conor McGregor. I'm looking for the best fighters in the world. That's all I care about. But if you can talk and you have a really good, I've been saying it all week, the mental warfare game that this guy has is second to none. I even think it's better than Ali. I'm telling you. And I know people go crazy when I think about this. He has been terrorizing him this whole time, getting into his head, doing all these things. Then today shows up with the Zen.
It was
right?
so
now
bizarre.
Today he's totally Zen and very, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just another dimension of the Conor McGregor mind game. And Chad Mendes said it in the first fight. He was saying all the things he said to him leading up in the fight, and then he talked to Chad through the entire fight. Continuing to get into his head and do the things that Conor McGregor does. The mental warfare that this guy has is second to none.
What would be a success for you?
A success for me is the way that I think this thing is going to play out. So I was with Conor 5 weeks ago in Ireland, and this is what he said to me. I'm going to run across that octagon, and I am going to drop bombs on him, and I will knock him out in the first 4 minutes. Now, I believe Conor when he says that he will run across and do that. When he does that, he will meet the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, the only 145-pound champion we've ever had, and a man who hasn't lost in 10 years, and he will respond. And when he does, I think we're going to have Hagler Hearns. I think that the first 4 minutes of this fight, or the first 5 minutes, however long this goes, is going to be incredibly violent, and this will not go to a decision.
I've never felt an energy, anything I've been to, like what we're experiencing, and it's only Wednesday.
Right.
I can't wait for Saturday. UFC 194, Dana White. Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Appreciate it.
The reigning featherweight champion is a long one. And joining us now with breaking news, UFC President Dana White. All right, Dana, the show will go on. So who is McGregor going to fight?
He will fight Nate Diaz. We figured that this would be the most exciting fight It's the fight that Conor really wanted. Diaz really, a lot of people wanted to fight Conor McGregor, but Diaz wanted the fight, and we felt that this was the fight to make.
Why Diaz? Why not somebody else, like maybe Cowboy Cerrone or someone else?
Well, let me tell you, there was a long list of people that had said they wanted to fight, have the chance to fight Conor McGregor. We called Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo turned the fight down. We called Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar turned the fight down. Those are two guys that everybody was talking about. Those two out of the way. We called Cowboy Cerrone. Absolutely accepted the fight. Would love to take the fight. BJ Penn wanted the fight. Anthony Pettis wanted this fight. A lot of guys wanted this fight, but we ended up with Nate Diaz. We felt this was the fight to make and the fight that the fans wanted to see.
Dana, McGregor's hope was to become the first fighter in UFC history to hold belts in 2 different weight classes simultaneously. Now that we have Diaz as the replacement, is there going to be an interim lightweight title on the line?
Well, here's the kicker to this whole thing. So, for those of you that don't know, Conor McGregor has the 145-pound title. He was moving up to 155 pounds to take Dos Anjos' title. Then there was talk about him moving to 170 to fight Robbie Lawler for his 170-pound title. This fight between him and Nate Diaz will be at 170 pounds. It will be a welterweight fight, which is 2 weight classes above where Conor McGregor won his title.
He's stepping up in more ways than one, and Dana, it's always must